fool? What you doing, fool? Oh, my throat hurts really bad. There's stuff on the table in here. Go away. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Hey. Lay down. All the way. Thank you. You want me to take this off and then you can throw the ball around? Hey there. Hi. I'm gonna just chew on it over here. It's just like, whatever. Benny, bring it here. Go bring it here. Go get it. You're itchy. Go get it. Go on. Bring it here. Good job. Good job. Sit. Sit. Good job. Go get it. Bring it here. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Sit. 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 Go. Up. Go get it. Bring it here. Go get it. You picked it up and dropped it. There you go. Can you pick it up for me? Pick it up for me. What time is it?
4:02.
Oh, it's already started. Oh, summer panel's already started. Cool. I thought I had a little bit of time, but... Well, I don't know who else is going to be here. If people filter in, then, you know, that's fine. I know a couple of panels just ended. So, basically I'm SMJ, and I have had a service dog since I was 18 years old, and I'm going to be 33 next week. So I've had a service dog for, what is that now, like 13, 14 years, something like that. My first service dog was a Pembroke Welsh Corgi. Her name was Annie, and she did PTSD work for me. My second service dog is a Heinz 57 everything mix, and he's been my service dog for 8.5 years, and he's 10 now, so he needs to retire. And then this is his replacement. My service dogs stay with me even after they're retired, so he'll stay with my other dog will stay with me. But this is Benny, and he's a 5-month-old Carolina Golden Retriever. And he is specifically bred for service work. I've had a very difficult time finding a dog that's going to replace my current service dog. Actually, this is number 4, which is something I kind of want to touch on. It's not. I lucked out with my first 2 service dogs. They were very easy. They were very smart, and they just had the right temperament for it. But I've had a very difficult, bad luck. We've had some very bad luck with getting 3 different dogs that did not work out as service dogs to replace my current service dog. So we kind of went and we did the easy route, which is a dog from proven lines, working dog lines, he was biosensor tested when he was 2 days old, and Volhard tested when he was 54 days old, or biosensoring is what they do for military dogs, but they do it for service dogs as well. But yeah, he's 5 months old now. I wouldn't recommend bringing a 5-month-old puppy to a convention, but he's a little bit ahead of the curve. He has not been bothered by this at all. He went to MFF when he was 10 weeks old, and we just carried him around, basically. He came with my service dog. Sit. Thank you. He spent 3 weeks with his service dog trainer a couple weeks ago, and now he's back. She taught him a few things like the retrieving, which he'll use that as a task because I have mobility issues, so he'll help me pick stuff up off the ground. Like if I drop my credit card on the ground, he'll pick it up and he'll do this, he'll give it to me. He's also being trained to do being trained to do interruption, which means If I'm sitting here, he may or may not do this here because he's still learning. If I'm sitting here and I'm picking at my skin, just out of anxiety, or I'm bouncing my leg out of anxiety, he's trained to paw at me. Well, he's going to be trained. Then, like that. That's him saying, stop. And then I stop, and then he can go away. But like, he can paw or he can hit with his nose. Come here, Ben. Good job, thank you. And so, in addition to being disabled and having a service dog, I'm a legal advocate for disabled people. I don't get paid for that, it's all volunteer. I've spoken in front of the Arizona State Senate in regards to service dogs, and I'm also on the Illinois Service Dog Legislative Task Force. So we're working on strengthening the laws in Illinois. So I guess we can start out, like, what kind of questions do you guys have about service dogs?
I guess what's like the full span of, or the full like list of like what they can do? Because I didn't even know until now. Like I thought they were just used for like visually impaired people.
Yeah, and that's where it started. You started having guide dogs, which were super awesome. Yeah, I have him off leash in here because he's not gonna go anywhere. So if he comes and says hi, I'll tell him to, Ben, come here. Ben. I know he wants to say hi to everybody. Ben, come here. Good boy. Sit. So we were talking about a little bit about me and how I've been a service dog handler for 13 years and how I'm on Illinois Legislative Task Force for Service Dogs and stuff like that. That's kind of my history. This will be my third service dog in 13 years. So, hey, my current service dog is 10. He was here last year. Ben, come here. Yeah, this is. I know he's a 5 month. He's 5 months old, so he's very loving. He's very crazy. Ben, thank you. Sit. No, this is honestly, like, a lot of people are like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's great practice. This is great practice because he's a puppy. He's just easily distracted. They all have ADD. They're ridiculous. So the question that we got asked was what I was about to answer was, what can service dogs do for people? And the answer to that is not easy because it's literally just endless. They started out with, just having guide dogs, and then they moved to hearing dogs, and then we started hearing things about, like, diabetic alert dogs. We started hearing things about PTSD dogs, especially since the Iraq War, people coming home having PTSD, they're finding that service dogs are a really excellent way to treat PTSD. I'll tell you what my dogs do for me, as to give you kind of like a spectrum of what my dogs do. So I have PTSD and traumatic brain injury. That's what I have. I got it when I was 11. I did not get it from the military, which a lot of people, if I say I have PTSD, they say thank you for your service. I did not serve. I was screwed up before I was even old enough to enlist. So they would not have allowed me to join. So what happened to me was I was assaulted by a couple of kids at my school to the point where I was hospitalized with a traumatic brain injury. And I have PTSD from that episode, as well as what's called complex post-traumatic stress disorder from a period of time in my early 20s. So I also have mobility problems associated with the traumatic brain injury. So I have like tremors from it. So like I was just trying to film it, Who's Lion, and I was going like this. So it's very hard to notice on me because I do take anticonvulsant medications for it, but I do have a tremor in both my feet and my hands. So when I walk, sometimes so that he'll be trained to do mobility support. So my current service dog, he does mobility support, which basically means that he is trained to brace if I'm about to fall over. He's trained to do momentum pull, which is where I grab onto a different harness or strap on his back, and he will pull me like up the stairs or out of a room. He does guide work, light guide work, basically. So like if I get if I disassociate, like I'm having like a panic attack in public, he can find a family member of mine, or he can find an exit, or he can find a car. My favorite task is that he does this thing called blocking. I was assaulted, so I don't like people like inching up on me from behind. So he actually will position himself in a way where he blocks people from doing that. So like if you've ever been, like, you don't think about this unless you have PTSD or something like that, but when I go to checkout lines at like a Walmart or like any other where, you're put in this small little section, you know, where it feels like I'm trapped all the time. And then when you have people inching their carts like into your heels, that can cause like trigger, you know. And for me, like when I have like a PTSD attack, I shut down. I do the freeze because they have like, there's fight, flight, flee, and freeze. Those are the symptoms of PTSD, like some of the symptoms of like reactive wise, and I do the freeze. So I'll actually just like shut down. And then that's it, that's the end of my day. So my dog's trained to prevent something like that from happening. Like you can run your cart into his side and he will not move. So those are just, I mean, there's a lot of different things that he does. Like I think he does, like I counted it, he does like over 25 different tasks. But the ADA only requires that a dog is trained to do one thing. And the one thing, so in order for, in the United States, I'm going to clarify that this panel is about the United States, it is not about Canada or other countries because they do have different rules. In the United States, there is no certification, registration, paperwork, or required training associated with having a service dog. In order for a dog to be a service dog, it must be potty trained, non-aggressive, under the control of the handler at all times, and be trained to mitigate a disability. So it doesn't matter what disability you have, it just has to be trained to do one thing. So technically, my dog blocking people in public, that's enough. But he does so much more. Guiding is just one task. Hearing alert is just one task. Diabetic alert is just one task. There was like a rumor going around that they need like a minimum of 3 tasks, and that's not true. There's an organization called the AEI that runs some programs, and people get them confused with the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. But ADI does require 3 tasks, and that's just for their programs. That's their choice. It's not a legal requirement. Currently in the United States, only dogs and miniature horses qualify as service animals, and the miniature horses have to be, he wants his toy. They have to be like under a certain height. They have their own set of rules. But I'm going to mostly talk about service dogs, just because that's the majority of service animals that are out there. Things that do not count as tasks are emotional support. So basically, if the dog is there, and it makes you feel good that the dog is there, that's not a task. The dog actually has to be trained to do something. So what I was explaining earlier is one of the things he's being trained to do is like, I have like these signs of when I have an anxiety attack where I'll start picking at my skin or my leg will just start bouncing. So what I'll do is I'll just start doing this, and he may or may not because he's still in training, but see if we can get him to do it. He should. And try to interrupt that. Here. Do it. So that can be considered an alert. Yeah. Or most of the time he'll poke me in the leg with his nose, or he'll paw me. But we're working on it. We're shaping it. He's only 5 months old, so he's basically like in puppy kindergarten right now. So like this weekend we're not being too overly serious about like how he's behaving. He is potty trained. He's potty trained, and he is under my control. Even if I have him off leash, he will come back. Ben, come here. Thank you. All right. Can you sit? So that is like one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, is that a lot of people are like, well, what about these emotional support animals that I hear about? And emotional support animals are actually wonderful. They are, but there's a lot of misconception about them. They are only for people who have a mental disability. They're not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry who wants to bring their dog on an airplane. You have to have a DSM, diagnosable disability. And then when you have an ESA, you're not allowed to bring them in public. You're only allowed to bring them on airplane, but you have to have certain paperwork. And there's some restrictions with that too. And then when you're in no pet housing, like they're basically like prescription pets. They're not trained to do anything except be pets. The owner's still liable if their dog causes damage to the building or whatever. ESAs can actually be any species with some limitations, like if you can't have like a lion as an ESA. Like there's rules against that, you know what I mean? A lot of people have pigs as ESAs, and there's a lot of zoning issues involving with that. Like different states and different counties have like different zoning laws. So you could have a pig ESA if your county allows for it. So if you're like in the city of Chicago, I think is a good example. You can't have a pig in the city of Chicago. Like that's considered livestock. So that would be like something you basically, it's called a reasonable accommodation. So if you have like a dog, a small dog ESA, like that's fine, or a cat ESA, like that's totally reasonable. So yeah, that's ESAs basically. The other thing that a dog can't be trained to do is protection work. So like you ever hear like people like training their dogs for like Shih Tzu and like police dog work. A service dog can't be trained to do that. Like a lot of people say a lot of people who have like PTSD say, oh well, my dog's trained to protect me if someone tries to assault me. That falls under the aggressive clause. So they need to do, if they do protection, it has to be passive protection. So an example of passive protection would be like my blocking that I was explaining. That would be blocking. Or in the event of somebody having a seizure, Ben, as someone having a seizure, a dog is allowed to stand over the human like that and lay down and just basically hold them until they're done having the episode. And sometimes you'll see dogs that have like alerts on them that say, like my one friend has one on her dog that says, if handler is down, do not call an ambulance. The service dog is trained to deal with the seizure. So basically, they'll have a seizure, they don't want to go to the hospital every time they have a seizure or every time they pass out. So their dog is trained to protect them while they're having an episode. So, and they don't want to have everybody freak out and say, oh my God, we need to call an ambulance right away. Otherwise, like some of my friends would have an ambulance bill every week. So, and that's the last time I was in an ambulance, it was $500 or something like that. It was ridiculous, just for the short ride to the hospital. Those are kind of the main restrictions. Did you guys have any other questions before I kind of go rambling on? Any other questions specifically?
Is there any limit to which animals can do services?
Yes. Service animals. So we're talking the dogs that are trained to mitigate a disability. In the United States, they are limited to dogs and miniature horses.
You said pigs too?
ESAs, which are a completely different category. Those are called emotional support animals.
Okay.
Those are completely different. Those are not a welcome in public, but they are allowed in no pet housing and on airplanes with certain restrictions. It's not like a free-for-all, which everybody thinks it is. It's not a free-for-all. For example, my service dog now is part bully breed. He's tons of bully breed mix. And he, what's up? Okay.
This lady is precious and has many words of wisdom. Listen to her. She also wears fun underwear.
I do wear fun underwear. I've got wild dog underwear.
Why are you sitting down? We're going now.
Dude, I'm fat. Last time I ran was for our ice cream truck.
So, yeah, basically ESAs are a completely different category, as are therapy animals. Therapy animals a lot of people think ESAs are called therapy animals. They're not. Therapy animal is the type of dog that goes into like a facility, like an old folks home or like a hospital, and they're welcomed in by the hospital. They usually come from a program, and they're specifically trained to give comfort to, many people. There's another thing called a facility dog. A facility dog is it's basically a therapy dog, but what they do is they'll have like people who, like let's say that there's like a divorce court or like there's kids on trial or something like that. They'll have the dog sit up there with them, and so like the kids are not as scared to take the stand. So they basically are like these therapy dogs that are specifically for court or hospitals or whatever. It's supposed to calm the person who's utilizing that service, basically. And those are really awesome. But the therapy dogs, they're also not allowed to go everywhere with their owner. They're only allowed to go into the places they've been welcomed to go into. A lot of people think, well, I brought my dog into Walmart and they didn't say anything. So my Walmart's pet friendly. Walmarts can't be pet friendly by law. They cannot be pet friendly because they sell food. So just because the employees are not educated about what questions they can ask does not mean that you're allowed to bring your pet into a place. So kind of branching off of that, there are 2 questions that you can ask if you are a gatekeeper. So I'm not talking not if you guys saw me at a con. You guys can't just ask me these questions. The gatekeeper, so the people who checked me into the hotel, like the employees, they can go, is that a service dog? What task has it been trained to do? That's it. And I can say yes, and he's trained in mobility support or anxiety interruption or whatever. Those are the 2 questions they can ask. Now, a lot of people think that that's not fair because they can't ask for an ID card, they can't ask for proof of a disability, they can't ask for proof, task, to us to demonstrate said task. So imagine if you had diabetes, right? Imagine if somebody's oh yeah, well prove that your dog can do a diabetic alert. It's what am I gonna do? Sit here and wait for my blood sugar to go down? Yeah. So people are just whatever. So a lot of people think, okay, well that's unfair because somebody could just walk in with their dog and lie and say they just, they found a loophole. It doesn't end there though. If you're, let's say I wanted to bring one of my pet dogs into Walmart. I love my dogs. 2 of them should never be service dogs, ever. They are very fearful, they're skittish around strangers, they don't like kids, they're rescues, whatever. They bark at strangers, they're very loud. One of them in particular, his dog is very loud. She's Pitbull and Chihuahua. She's hilarious, but she is very loud, doesn't like being out of her comfort zone. If I was to bring her into Walmart and I said, oh yeah, she's for anxiety interruption, and I walked in with her, there's still a couple of ways that it can kick me out. So if I bring her in and then she immediately starts barking at people nonstop, trying to growl at people, or she wouldn't do this, but trying to growl at people or bite at people, she pees on the floor, poops on the floor, she starts destroying things in the store, stuff on the shelf, taking stuff off the shelf, or I put her in a cart, I can be asked to leave with the dog. And then they said, what they can say is, you are more than welcome to shop here, but you cannot bring the dog. And that doesn't matter if it's a fake service dog or if it's a real service dog. If I brought my service dog, who's been doing this for 8.5 years, into Walmart and he pees on the floor, they can ask me to leave. It doesn't matter if he's legitimate or not. If these dogs are not under control in a store, there's your proof. So a lot of people think oh, well, stores are helpless because we can only ask the 2 questions. That's not true. If the dog is misbehaving, they can be asked to remove the dog. So it's not a totally helpless situation. I feel like businesses really do need to know the law. to protect themselves, because they do have a lot of rights, and they think that they don't have rights, which can be frustrating, because us as service dog handlers, we want them to enforce the law. Even if that means my service dog has a bad day and he's on the floor, I'm more than willing, before anyone says anything to me, I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to leave immediately, because I'm going to be so embarrassed. So my dog's behavior speaks for itself. There's no ID, there's no certification, there's no tag, there's nothing. My dog's behavior will speak for itself. The other day, I was at Bath and Body Works with him, and he was in a downstay like this. And some guy starts talking to him, and he's just like, oh, hey, little guy, you're being so good. And he sat up, and I'm so used to my service dog, like, completely ignoring everybody, that he sat up, and I was just like, I'm like, Benny, leave it. I'm like, I'm so sorry. He's still in training. So I thought that was out of control. So just because I'm so used to having a dog that is bomb-proof, basically. Like, when people live, like, I brought him here last year. When I brought him, he's been to, like, he's been on over 60 airplane flights. He's been to probably 40, 50 cons. He's been everywhere. He's been to Disneyland. He's been to Universal Studios. He's been on a cruise. He's been to New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles. He's swam in the Great Lakes, the Gulf of Mexico, the Pacific Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean. So he's a well-traveled boy. He's awesome. I mean, there's nothing you can throw at that dog that is going to bother him. I forgot where I was going with this. What was I talking about before?
Stores?
Oh, yeah. I brought him here last year, and there were a couple of people that got down in his face, and they were like, hey, buddy, how are you? You're such a cute dog. And then he just goes like this. Like, just totally throws shade on these people. Like, it's so funny. Like, talk to me. Yeah. And trust me, if you come over to my house or he's off duty, he's the most friendly dog in the whole world. You can't get him to go away. So he is, he's not, like, antisocial. Like, I've had people say, oh, your dog's antisocial. And I said, no, he's professional. Like, I've had kids, like, come running at him to grab him, and he just, like, slightly, like, moves out of the way, like, all Matrix style, just, like, moves out of the way, and the kids go running past him. And then usually by then the parents are like, hey, no, don't touch that dog, something like that. But yeah, I could gush about that dog forever. He's been, like, a total hero to me. I'm trying to think of where I could go next. There's, like, a really good resource online, and normally I print it out for this panel, but I totally spaced. But if you want to look it up, it's called, if you Google ADA FAQ service dogs, this is going to be the first thing that pops up. And it's called it's from the Department of Justice, and it's frequently asked questions about service animals. And this is just, like, I recommend that if you're a service dog handler, you're interested in having a service dog, or you're just, like, a member of the general public, you should read this and just know it. It's a really short, like, I think it's like 37 question. And it's really, like, well laid out. It's really, there's not a lot of legalese, which I know, like, the actual law has a lot of legalese, so people don't read that. This is written very well. I highly recommend reading it, no matter who you are, no matter what. So I'm kind of going through here. One of the things that, like, kind of stemming back to, like, emotional support can't be a task. This question is, if someone's dog calms them when having an anxiety attack, does that qualify as a service animal? And it says, it depends. So basically, if the dog's presence is just preventing a panic attack or makes somebody feel better during a panic attack, that's not considered a task. If the dog is trained to, like, do something which is called deep pressure therapy, which is what he was doing when I was on the ground, he was trying to do deep pressure therapy on me. Deep pressure therapy or interruption, or they're like leading me to my car, or leading me to a family member, or blocking. Those are all things that can calm somebody during an anxiety attack. They can do tactical stimulation where they jump up on you and you can touch them, or they lick you or something like that. Those are all things but the dog has to be trained to do it. It's not like my dog just is there and it makes me feel better. Because everyone is like that. I mean, like, I might disagree with that most times, because a lot of times I'm like, Yeah, my dogs don't give me any kind of emotional support. They just give me anxiety. Because I have 5 dogs, so, and I work from home, so I'm with them like almost 24/7. And so like they get on my nerves a lot sometimes. But they're all really good dogs, but like they're just, there's a lot of them. They outnumber me by a lot. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up because a lot of people are always worried about like anxiety and stuff like that. Like, is that a task? Can people with depression have a service dog? Absolutely, as long as it's task trained. There's no required vest. There's no required certification. There's no required tag. Can they go through a salad bar? Absolutely, yes they can. Are they allowed on airplanes? Yes, absolutely. Can they? And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is that they can be any breed of dog. They can be miniature horses as well, but they can be any breed of dog. My current service dog, as I mentioned, is like a Heinz 57 mutt. He's like an everything, basically. Like, we did the DNA test on him, and it's like Boxer, German Shepherd, Chow, Doberman, Rottweiler, Dalmatian, American Bulldog. Like, it's everything. So he's allowed to be a service dog, no problem. Most of the time, you're going to see like golden retrievers, and you're going to see labs, and you're going to see German Shepherds and poodles. Like, those are kind of going to be your main core dogs, and that's because those dogs are all really smart, and they've been bred to do these sorts of things for years. There's a lot of pit bull service dogs, and they're wonderful. But like German Shepherds, so like German Shepherds and pit bulls are amazing, but because they're bred to like really like love the person that they're treating or that they're working with, when a lot of times those breeds, not just German Shepherds and pit bulls to single them out, but we're talking like any herding breed dog, they get like too emotionally invested in the owner, and so like if the owners have an anxiety attack, the dog starts to have an anxiety attack. And that is not a good dog to match up with somebody who has like PTSD or something like that. Which is what I've learned the hard way, because this is my 4th time trying to replace my current service dog. First one was a Corgi, had fear issues, had to go back to a breeder. The second one was one of my dogs that I have that washed out because she had anxiety issues. She's pit bull and German Shepherd, and she's got that German Shepherd personality. Then the last one, my brother actually owns this dog now, was a boxer. And I thought a boxer was going to be a solid choice because they've been used as guide dogs for years. Didn't work out. It's just the individual dog didn't have the right personality. Now she belongs to my brother. So it kind of upsets me when people just think that they can just take their dog and make them a service dog, because I've been through it where I've had to what's called wash out 3 dogs because it wasn't fair to them to be bringing them into public. I guess that's a big part of it, is you want a dog that's bomb-proof. You good boy, do you want to go walk around for a while? You go walk around because you were being good. Yeah, it might take being all pouty. Come on, you go walk around. You go say hi. Go say hi. Come on, go say hi. He's like, okay. Come on, go say hi. You can go say hi. He's like, okay. Yes. You can pet him. I gave him that. That's his release word, so he's allowed to say that. So yeah, he's a 5-month-old golden retriever. He's from a breeder in North Carolina who specifically breeds for service dogs. That's why I went the easy route, and I went and got a golden retriever this time because 4th time's a charm, I guess. I know, he's such a sweet dog. Dogs are gonna be mad. Yep.
Oh, you eat my whole hand.
Benny, no mouth. So yeah, he's losing all of his teeth right now. So he's teething. So he's come here, Ben, back. So see, he comes back and he's back to work. So sit. Go. No, Ben, come back. Ben, back to work. Back to work. Thank you, good boy. So Yeah, so, and service dogs, like, are allowed to play, as you can see. Like, a lot of people think that service dogs are like robots, like, they're never allowed to play, and they're never allowed to do anything. Yeah, right. My current service dog comes home, he checks out. That's it. He's done for the day. He's running up and down the stairs, he's barking at the garage door opening, he's barking at every leaf that blows around outside, he runs around in the backyard like a freak of nature. He's ridiculous. He loves swimming, like swimming is like his favorite thing. He's got web paws, so he can swim really, really well. He's ridiculous. Him and my pit bull are ridiculous. Like, they have like crazy web paws and they can just like swim for hours. Like, they won't stop. So they do have fun. I'm trying to think of anything else. I looked up online. I mean, do you guys have any other questions while I look this up? I can answer any question. I am an open book. So you can any question you've ever wanted to know about service dogs. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if it's you think it's like too personal. I can promise you that it is not too personal for me.
Are you able to like help train service dogs, not to like have one, but to train them to go to people that need?
Can I do that?
Or can anybody?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of programs that have what's called a puppy raiser program. I know CCI, which is Canine Companions for Independence, has a really big prospect puppy program. And basically what you do is, I'm not sure, it probably varies from program to program, but a puppy raiser generally will have the dog for the first year of life. And they are, in some states, are allowed to bring the dog into public for training purposes only. Like I know here in Wisconsin, he is task trained, so technically under the Americans with Disabilities Act, he's considered a service dog. I consider him a service dog in training under my standards, not the government standards. He's in training for me because he's not to the level my service dog is at. So he will be in training to me, probably until like a year and a half, 2 years. But as far as the state of Wisconsin is concerned, and as far as the federal government is concerned, he is considered a service dog. There's no age limit, although it does, to properly train a service dog, it takes about 2 years. So the puppy raisers are kind of responsible for going through that puppy stage, and then they're required to give them back after a year, and generally the programs will work with the disabled person, so they train with the disabled person. That's why the puppy comes back, and then the puppy is going to be living with the disabled person from there on out. Good programs will take the dogs back. If there's any issues, like let's say the handler dies, the program should take it back. Same with breeders. If a breeder, you know they're a good breeder if like his breeder has a clause in her contract that gives her what's called first refusal. So if I wanted to get rid of him, which I don't, she's allowed to say, I'll take him back first before I can offer him to anybody else. So that's a good breeder. Like those are responsible breeders. Like I said, this is all she does. She was disabled too. She noticed that there was a big problem with good quality dogs being available to owner trainers. Owner training that's another thing I should bring up. Owner training is an option. Oh my God, got a musical going on in there. Owner training is an option. I have owner trained my first 2 dogs without the help of a service dog trainer. With him, I'm working with a service dog trainer because my disabilities have gotten. So he's not even hearing. I'm working with a service dog trainer just because my disabilities have gotten worse, and I'm so afraid of failure because of the last 3 dogs that I'm like, I need help. That's why he goes and stays with her for like 3 weeks, which is weird, because it's like, where'd my dog go for like 3 weeks? I still have my other dogs, but I don't have my puppy. Like, where'd my puppy go? So yeah, he stayed with her for like 3 weeks, a couple months, like a month ago. I picked him up on the day of the polar vortex. So. And he loves snow, which is hilarious. He's from North Carolina, but he loves snow. He will stick his head in the snow and just like plow forward with it. I'll show you a video, it's really funny. But yeah, so I found this list. So like, how you Google and it'll auto-fill for you? Like if you write, like I wrote in do service dogs, and then it auto-filled like the top questions for it. And one of them was, do service dogs bark? Yes, they do. Unfortunately. My service dog barks a lot, just not in public. They're allowed to bark like once. So like if you go to like a movie theater and your dog like barks at once, you can't be asked to leave. But if your dog is like barking and whining nonstop, they can actually say, you gotta leave. One bark is not considered a disruption. Like, here's an example. I went to the Container store with my service dog trainer because she wanted me to take my dog with her to help train another dog because the dog was being distracted. It was a service dog in training. Distracted. So we went to Container store. And Container store is notoriously pet friendly. But we went there and that dog was whining a lot and kind of like, kind of like barking and whining and stuff like that. And after about an hour of being there, the store came up to us and said, if the dog's going to be barking at people and, pulling towards people, you guys are going to have to leave. So we left. We were like, we understand completely. 100%, we left. They worked on the dog at home, and now that dog is, has been a service dog without issues like that for a couple of years now. So that's another example of, can an actual service dog teams be kicked out? Yes, and I have been. Not for my dog's behavior, but for another dog's behavior. Do service dogs have to be spayed or neutered? No, there is no rule against that. He will actually be intact at least until 2 years old because he's going to be used for mobility support. When you neuter them early, what happens is they don't have the sex hormone tell when their joints are supposed to stop growing. So they tend to get a little bit taller than normal, and their joints and their ligaments are kind of stretched and like not the way that they were genetically designed to be. So when you have a mobility support dog, you want to leave him intact for at least 2 years. So that's like when he's done growing. So like 24 months, he's done growing. I can get him neutered if I want to. But there's no requirement for me to neuter him. The only downside about it is that it costs like $1 million more to register him, like his rabies count, with the county, because he's not exempt from that. He's not exempt from the county registration. I have to pay for that. That's like just like the rabies tag. So, but yeah, they charge you like 3 times the amount for the tag if your dog's not neutered. So, understandably, I get it. I worked rescue for 15 years, so all my other dogs are neutered. The next 2 are, do service dogs have papers, or do service dogs need to be certified? No, absolutely not. Any website that sells papers or certification is just trying to separate you from your money. They hold no legal value. Like if you go to that ADA FAQ, they have a special section that said there are entities and websites and places that offer certifications, but these hold no value under the law. They have no legal value at all. So they're not worth the paper they're printed on, basically. Unfortunately, they are just kind of there to scam gullible people. They legitimately disabled people who have even used them because they think I'm going to need this ID to get into places with my service dog, even though they don't. They think this will make it easier. As a service dog community, we're highly against any kind of IDs. Even programs that have IDs for their dogs, a good program will say, don't pull this out in an access dispute. For example, here's why you don't do it. So when I went to the Arizona State Senate to talk about their I went to speak in front of Congress or their Senate to. They had this stupid law. It's a long story. It didn't pass, but it was just stupid. And every single reputable service dog group in the area and a bunch of owner trainers all showed up against this law because it was so bad. It was are required to come from a program, are required to have a vest, are required to have an ID, and that's all against the ADA. You can't require that as a state. The ADA trumps the state. A state can be more, or a state can be less restrictive, but they can't be more restrictive than the ADA. So, if let's say Wisconsin decided, well, we think cats can be service dog animals too. Wisconsin can have cats as service animals. You can't have the cat in Illinois or Minnesota, but like if Wisconsin decided, hey, you know, whatever, it can be any animal, they're allowed to do that, like within reason. But if they said, okay, well, like if Wisconsin said, okay, well, we agree with dogs being service animals, but we don't agree with miniature horses being service animals. Because the ADA says that they can be, Wisconsin can't restrict that. So another thing that is restricted from state to state is the status of service dog in training. The ADA does not cover service dogs in training, but each individual state does, like in different ways. Like some of them say a disabled person can come in public with their dog in training if they're training them, you know, if they're working on training them. Some say it has to be from a program in order to come out and train in public. They have to be with like a certified trainer. That's actually how Wisconsin is, but like, it's really unclear what's considered a recognized trainer. Like technically I'm considered a recognized trainer. So like, you know, it's really like it needs to be strengthened a little bit if they want to do that because it's really weak right now. Like technically, yeah, like anyone from my service dog trainers group can come up here and train. Like, it's really weird. So, Benny, sit. 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 Thank you. So, yeah, basically, you know, Illinois is anyone can bring their dog into public for training. Not anyone, but a disabled person can bring their dog into public for training. But when you're traveling with a service dog, those are things you really have to know state to state. Like you can't just assume that because your state allows it, that every state allows it. Let's see. Do service dogs fly for free? Yes, they do. You're not required to pay any extra fees for a service dog. That includes if I want to take his crate with me, I am not required to pay to ship his crate, or it does not count towards my baggage. Like it's just free, as long as it's not like as long as it's not like an airline crate, you know, like a plastic crate that I've shoved full of my stuff. I'll get charged for that. But if it's just like a crate or it's just like a bag that has like his stuff in it, like let's say even for carry-on, like you know you're limited to one item and you know one personal item like a purse or something like that. I can bring his own separate item on and it does not count towards that goal because it's considered medical equipment. It's like, so if I wanted to bring his food on the plane with me, like all of his food for the week, I'm allowed to do that and I don't have to pay any extra for that. A lot of people think like he gets his own seat or that I have to pay for his own seat. I've never had to do that, and my service dog's like 70 pounds. I've flown over 60 times with him, and I've never once needed to pay for an additional seat. You can be asked to pay for an additional seat, but you're talking like if it's a miniature horse or if it's like a St. Bernard or like a Great Dane. Like it does not fit in one seat. You can be required to purchase another seat for the dog. Because at that point it's not considered a reasonable accommodation for a dog to be taking up, you know, a seat that somebody else could have paid for, or did pay for. Let's see what the other ones are. Do service dogs cost money? Yeah, a lot of money. And that just goes for all dogs in general, cost a lot of money. My damn dogs in the last year have racked up, I had, my first service dog passed away. She was 14. She retired when she was 6, and she lived with me her whole life. She ended up she had a genetic condition, and then she ended up getting cancer, and we were like, that's it. But during that, when we found out she had the genetic condition, we needed to have an MRI to diagnose that, and then she also had to do underwater physical therapy for several months because of that condition. It's called degenerative myelopathy. It's basically doggy ALS. And she ended up racking up like close to like $3,000 in medical bills. And then my current service dog, right after Fursquared last year, decided he was going to have heart problems, and that cost me another $300, or did I say 30, 40,000? No, he cost me another $3,300. So, yeah, dogs are expensive. Not just service dogs. Dogs are expensive. My current service dog, I paid $65 for him from the shelter. He started out as a foster dog. My first service dog was free. She was a rescue from a backyard breeder. She was free. And this guy cost me $1,500. But he's from a really reputable breeder, and he was like I said, he was biosensor trained, or biosensor tested and bullhard tested, and like he's handpicked from his litter to be a service dog. So he's ahead of the game a little bit. So they are not free, and a lot of programs do charge like upwards of like $10,000 to like $50,000 for a fully trained dog sometimes, and sometimes the wait list can be like 2 years or something like that. Service dogs.
Wow. I'm not one of those.
No. Do service dogs get paid? I mean, they get free health care. They don't have to pay for it. They get free health care, they get free food, they get free love, but they don't get like an actual like paycheck. My dogs I probably spend more money on my dogs than I do on myself. There's another question is, do service dogs bite? No, absolutely not. Not even, like we talked about earlier about how protection training is not considered a task under the ADA. Basically, a service dog can't bite. I mean, there's definitely been instances where like a handler has been attacked or something like that, and then the dog has like gone after the person, because dogs do that sometimes. But a lot of times like that, like if the dog's from a program, the program will wash the dog after that. Like they will say, no more, can't be a service dog anymore. Even if it was in self-defense. What happens is there's like a psychological thing, and sometimes that can be damaging enough to the dog where you can't really trust it in public anymore. Like, what if they think their handler's going to be attacked again? What if a kid rushes up to them and they think, oh my god, this kid is attacking like that one guy did. They can bite the kid in the face or whatever, and then there's like a whole liability thing. So they, like a lot of programs for liability reasons, will wash dogs that have bitten, even in self-defense. That's why it's really important to not have fake service dogs out in public. A lot of people think, well, my dog's really well trained. I can guarantee you your dog is not as well trained as mine is. Your dog probably behaves in the same way that he does, where he's good in public, and he's friendly, and he loves people, but when it comes to like the very serious, like, things dropping, explosions, fireworks, people rushing up and grabbing them, that takes years of training to desensitize a dog from that, to get a dog to the point where it's bomb-proof. Ronnie has been on rides at Disneyland. He's been on rides at Universal. He's been on Ferris wheels. He's been to, we live in Arizona, so we've been to old western towns where they have fake gunfights in the street. He doesn't do anything. I know that my other dogs wouldn't be as cool about that. They're not service dogs though. There's been several instances where people brought their dogs into public and they thought, oh, well, my dog is great in public, but I can see as a dog trainer the signs of anxiety that the dog is experiencing. Even though they're behaving, they're darting their eyes, they're licking their lips, their ears are pinned back, their tail's like kind of between their legs. It doesn't have to be like full on shaking and growling. I can tell when a dog is stressed. I've had a couple of dogs go after my service dog and try to attack him. I had to knee a dog in the head to get the dog from latching out of my service dog. It was a 90-pound dog. My dog's a 70-pound dog. He could have, if that dog would have gotten a hold of him, I don't know how my dog would have reacted. I don't think he would. I know he wouldn't have bit him because my other dogs have gotten into fights in the house, and his very first reaction is to run and go sit in his cage. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. So he's like the most passive-aggressive dog in the world. But if this dog could have bit him in the face, like if that dog would have bit him in the face, maybe like every time I go out and he sees another dog, he'd shuts down. He could start shutting down. Or maybe every time he hears someone's keys jingle, he thinks it's a dog tag. And he could be like, not paying attention. He could miss something on me, or he could try to dart away and he would like pull me over. That's why it's so important to just leave your pets at home, is because it makes my life so much harder. And it's like, I don't think that my dog is better than your dog or whatever. I just know that my dog has been trained specifically for this one job. If you took him and you tried to put him into an agility ring, he would have no idea what to do. You put one of my other dogs who's not a service dog, you put him in an agility ring, he's unbelievable. Like, he's a rock star. He's great. It's just something my dog has been trained to do, and public access is something your dog is trained to do. It's not something that you just decide to do one day, because it's unfair to your dog if you do that. And do you guys have any other questions? We're basically at the end of this panel, so if you guys have any other questions, I can answer them real quick.
Well, I guess one of my questions is, are you training Benny to be your own personal service dog?
He will be my own personal service dog. Yeah, I'm working with another trainer. She actually came here last year to do this panel with me. Her name was Siobhan. She's a trainer in Illinois, and she is a service dog handler and trainer. So she goes around all over northern Illinois, and she trains dogs for people. So, he will be mine. He will be my service dog.
Have you trained dogs for other people before, or would
No.
you consider doing that, or?
No, I've kind of always had like a firm no on this one. I've done rescue, and rescue's tough enough for me, because, it's hard enough to find a good home for another dog, let alone follow up with them and like make sure that they're doing the right training or whatever. It's just not something I'm interested in. I'm just gonna admit it. Like, I think I could be very helpful as a service dog trainer because of my experience, but I just don't think that because of my disability and my anxiety related to my PTSD, I don't think it's a possibility for me. Just for me personally, not everyone with PTSD, but me personally, I think that would be a little bit too much anxiety. It's a lot of liability being a trainer. Like, if I say something wrong, or I tell them to do something and they do it wrong and the dog bites them, it would cause too much anxiety for me. You know what I mean? I've kept dogs because I didn't feel comfortable adopting them out, So I just don't think that it would be I don't think it'd be a good fit for me. I enjoy going out and, like, if my friends need help training their service dogs, like they need like another dog in public, like because their dog's not used to working with other dogs in public, I'll do that. Like, I have no problem with that. If my trainer says, hey, I have a dog that's really nervous around big dogs, or I have a dog that's really nervous around small dogs. I have an 80 or a 70-pound dog, and I've got an 18-pound dog. So I can bring them out in public. Like, my dogs are, awesome for that kind of thing. Or if somebody's like, oh, well, my dog got attacked by a pit bull, or my dog got attacked by a chihuahua, or whatever. Now they're afraid of that breed. Well, I have a couple of chihuahua mixes and I have a pit mix. I'll bring them out in public. I'll bring them, and my dogs are really well behaved and good with other dogs, so we can work with that. That's about it for training for me. I do train my own dogs, but I'm good at training dogs for me. That's it. And I can barely do that nowadays. That's why I have the trainer helping me, because my disabilities have gotten worse in the last couple of years, so unfortunately. They're getting better now, but they were getting worse for a while, so. They were really good in the beginning of my 20s, and then they just kind of, mid-20s, something really bad happened to me, and then they just got way worse again. But we're all good now. I'm good, but having a dog is a godsend. If I wouldn't, I'll kind of close it out on this, is that I've been disabled since I was 11. I had somebody assault me when I was a kid. I had 3 kids, older kids, jump me and kick me in the head over 45 times, and it resulted in a traumatic brain injury. I've had PTSD since then, as well as other issues resulting from a traumatic brain injury, which they didn't realize at the time because it wasn't until recently that they started really investigating what happens post-concussion because of all the football players. And a lot of my mobility problems are caused from my brain injury, because like the side of the brain that it happened on, like that's the side I have problems on. You know what I mean? Like it's it was very difficult because immediately following that I started getting diagnosed with all these different things, and they were all misdiagnoses. Like, so we're talking like ADHD, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. We're talking about all that stuff, but it wasn't any of those things. So when we were trying to treat those things, it wasn't working. So as soon as we started treating me for a brain injury, suddenly it started working. So yeah, that's all actually thanks to all the that concussion doctor. What's his name? The guy that Will Smith played in that movie Concussion. I don't remember. But because of that doctor, they were able to figure out what was going on with me. And I've been on I've been on a lot better since then. So yeah. So but yeah, my service dog. If it wasn't for my service dogs, I don't think I could have done all that I've done in the furry fandom. I mean, I've been to over 60 cons. My service dog has traveled with me. My first service dog had been on over 20 flights. My current service dog had been on over 60 flights, so it's like 80 flights. He was on one flight already, just home. He wasn't as a service dog, he was as a pet, because he was only 9 pounds. He was just this little tiny, I'll show you a few pictures and then we'll kind of close it on that.
Please do.
But yeah, he's so, oh my god, it's so cute. And then I'll show you the video of him digging into the snow.
By all means, please.
But yeah, he is, yeah, so he, but if it wasn't for my service dogs, there's no way I could have enjoyed the furry fandom in the way that I have over the last 14 years, so. He's just like a cotton ball. Can you believe this was him? That was just 3 months ago. He was just this little cotton ball. Oh my god, he felt like a cotton ball. Yeah, he's like, we know you're a cotton ball. And then I'll show you the video of him. Here, we'll just make sure that he stays on the floor. We're working on that. On the floor for pets only. He's got to have 4 feet on the floor for pets. But yeah, let me show you the video of him in the snow. Watch him. He'll stick his whole face in the snow. And then a lot of times he like drags it. Like he just like, I'll just like a polar bear. Yeah, and it's really funny because my first service dog used to do the same thing, and I've never seen 2 dogs do that. Like I've only seen Annie do it. And then yeah, he does it now too. So I say that he's my first service dog reincarnated. They have like the same personality, like it's hilarious. You found Dad. But yeah, that's what he does. He sticks his whole head in the snow and then just. Oh my god.
I guess I just have a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Because he has like a vest and everything. Are only certain companies or something certified places able to sell those?
Any place can sell them.
So like,
my current service dog has a vest that was custom made for me by another service dog handler. I'll show you a picture of it. And then like, there's no legitimate place to buy it. There's no like restrictions on who can buy them and sell them.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, like, there's definitely a problem with that, but like, I mentioned earlier, there are, even if a dog comes in with a vest, they can still be asked to leave. Service dog or not, if the dog is out of control.
No, you can't.
You gotta put all 4 feet on the ground. You gotta wait. I'm trying to find a good picture of his vest. I have a picture. Oh, I know which one I'll show you guys. I have a picture of him at MFF. And they're standing together. Oh, that one. But yeah, no, that vest is actually a hand-me-down. So, where is he? Oh, I guess maybe I don't. Oh, yeah, here. I forgot he was this small. So there's my service dog, and that's him at MFL. That's at 10 weeks old. So he just came for the day. Yeah, he came for a day. That was it. Just to do the service dog panel and walk around the dealer's den. But yeah, there's my service dogs. That's his custom vest that was made for him. So he's got this. This is for counterbalance, and then he's got an additional strap on here that's for momentum pull. And he'll be trained to do that. Ben, come here. He'll be trained to do that eventually, but Ben, come here. Thank you. Good boy, yes. Sit. Thank you. And because we have pit bulls, we had to he has to dress up like one to fit in. Like, it was so funny because I love him, but like golden retriever was like so low on my list of dogs that I wanted. Not for any like bad reason. Like, I just, you know, my second worst bite that I ever got was from a golden retriever when I was a vet tech. Almost broke my hand. So I've just always been like, nah, on golden retrievers. And then my dog trainer was like, or my service dog trainer, she's like, you've had 3 washouts. You need to go with the easy option. And I was like, fine. And so I've gotten him, and I absolutely love him. Like I take back everything I said about golden retrievers. Like, yeah, they're kind of generic and boring, but you know, that's why we we dress him up like a pit bull. You know, we have all our bully breeds in our house and stuff like that. So he's got to fit in. So we call him a bully retriever. That's what he is. So yeah, he's a good boy. He's a really pretty color too.
Handsome.
I didn't know because I thought he was going to be. So his puppy coat is. This is his puppy coat, the lighter, that white color. So this, like, what color on his ears, that's what color he's going to be when he's an adult. So he'll be like this, that darker, that you still yeah. I know a lot of people think he's a Great Pyrenees because he's so lightly colored. But yeah, his parents are both really light, and then his grandpa lived to be 14, which is insane for a golden retriever because they're notoriously cancer factories. He lived to be 14. He was kind of more this color, like this darker color. So he'll probably be more like his grandpa than his mom and dad. Sit. Yeah, his grandpa just passed away. Like, just. But yeah, he got to meet him before he passed away, so I think that's really cool. And that was that lady's first service dog, that breeder's first service dog. His name was Wiley. And his dad's name is Coyote. Wiley Coyote. So it was Wiley's son is Coyote, and then that's his dad. The Coyote's his dad. We actually had a dog that was legitimately half Coyote. His name was Blackjack. And so I was joking that I have another dog that's half Coyote. So, but yeah, he's really working out. I'm really happy with him. This is his first solo con.
He listens really well.
Yeah, he's got really good focus, which is, I had a choice between a dog that had better structure and the dog that had a lot better focus, and I chose to go with the dog that had better focus. So he doesn't have bad structure. He has more than acceptable, but this other litter that she had were just like really good for like heavy mobility, but I don't need heavy mobility work. I only need light stuff. So I'm like, I'd much rather have the dog that's like more in my comfort zone. Herding breed dogs are more in my comfort zone, and they have really, really good focus. Because I've always had herding breed dogs my whole life. I've had Corgis, I've had Aussies, German Shepherds, and then about 10 years ago, I started getting Pit Bulls and Chihuahuas. And they ended up being, that's like all I have now is Pit Bulls and Chihuahuas. I have one of my dogs is half Chihuahua and half Corgi. So kind of that transitionary. My Corgi, the one that just passed away, that was my last Corgi. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do another one. Too many health problems. Too many. You ready? You want to go? I have 2 hours to kill before the super sponsor dinner. I'll probably let him go outside because he was kind of whining under the table, and that's usually a good indication that he's got to go potty. So I really appreciate you guys showing up. And if you guys ever have any other questions, I'm SenJCBD on Twitter. And like this, but like the letters CBD at the end. And then I have a YouTube channel, is Coloring Book Dog. And I'm going to be doing a service dog series. So I'll probably be repeating a lot of the stuff I said here, but probably also doing like just kind of fun like service dog stories, or like this has happened to me when I've had a service dog. Like for example, when I was on the cruise, some guy stuck his fingers in my dog's mouth like repeatedly and kept saying, he's a service dog, they have soft mouths, they're supposed to have soft mouths. And he just kept like sticking his fingers in his mouth. And after a while, like my dog's super tolerant, like he won't do anything. But after a while I'm like, we need to get out of here. Like, what the hell? Like, he was super drunk. Like, but yeah, he just, like, had his fingers in his mouth, and he just kept doing this. Yeah, he won't bite me. They're supposed to have soft mouth. And the only thing that has a soft mouth are, like, golden retrievers and retrievers in general, because they're supposed to catch, like, game fowl, and they're supposed to not bite into it and stuff like that. So they have, like, a light hold, and that's what's called a soft mouth. But that has nothing to do with service dogs, especially my dog, who has no retriever in him whatsoever. So, I have no idea. I still, to this day, I have no idea. I can't even begin to explain that one day.
I have one last question then. So, for people who are just like general people, what do you say is the best way, like if someone, like you're out in public and they have a service dog, is it best to just like completely ignore the dog or not even like, because they're like, I know like they're working and you don't want to distract them, but.
So the main thing is you talk to the handler, not the dog. You're going to get a different answer. If you ask 10 handlers, oh, did I flip? There's my dogs.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, they're so handsome.
Yeah, but then that was the other one I showed you was my service dog jumping into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Loves swimming. Yeah, always talk to the person, not the dog. And treat the dog with medical equipment. Like, would you like run up to somebody's like walking cane and be like, oh man, this is awesome? Or, you know, can I try your crutches? You know, or, oh man, your wheelchair is awesome, and just start like wheeling them around. You would never do that, so don't do that with a service dog. But like I said, if you ask 10 handlers, you're gonna get 10 different answers. In general, that's what I said. Like some people, like a lot of handlers just say, leave us alone completely. I'm the kind of person that I benefit from the social interaction that comes with a service dog, and I've been doing this for 13 years, and I go up and talk about this in front of Congress and work on laws associated with this. So I know a lot about it. You know, I host these panels. I don't mind talking about it. I'm open about my disability, but that does not mean that anyone else needs to be. There is no requirement for them to share their disability with you, for them to let you pet their dog, for anything. So there's, you know, like when I go hang out, like we have a whole group. It's called Chicago Area Service Dog Teams, and we hang out all the time. And it's so funny because people will come over, and there's like different rules with every dog. Like, they come up and, like, they say, hey, can I pet your dog? And I say, yeah, let me give them a release word. And they go and pet my dog. And then they think that they can just go over and pet my friend's dogs. Not the case. So I always preface it with, I know you're allowed to pet my dog. You have to ask other people. And don't be offended if they say no. You don't know what they're going through that day. You could be the 100th person to try and stop them and pet their dog. You know what I mean? So
I just always go with, don't pet the dog.
Yeah, that's a really good philosophy to adopt.
I was a cashier at Walmart. There was this lady that had a service dog with a beautiful dog. It was some sort of like Tibetan mastiff.
Oh, those are so. We were just looking at pictures.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he kept like looking at me and like coming over and like sniffing my hand, and I'm like, I can't touch you. And the lady noticed, like, you can pet him if you want. I was like, oh, thank God. We started petting the dog.
Yeah,
like,
that's kind of how Ronnie is. One of Ronnie's jobs, like I said, he does like the blocking. That's my current service dog. He like looks like he's sniffing people, but he's not. He just pushes them away with his nose so they don't pinch up on me. And they go, oh, he's sniffing me. And I'm just like,
I was helping her with something at the checkout.
Yeah.
She was like touching my hand, and I was
Yeah.
like, I can't touch you. Oh my God, I can't touch you.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can pet him.
yeah. Some service dogs are more like friendly than others. Like my dog is like he literally throws shade on people who try to touch him. But like if I give him his release word, he's ridiculous. He'll be licking you in the face, sitting on you, whatever. Come on, let's go. I know. Yes, you did a good job. That was your second service dog panel. Look at that. You've like tripled in size since then. More than tripled, almost quadrupled in size. We're supposed to weigh him today. We'll weigh him. We weigh him every Saturday. So we don't have a scale here though. You did it, babe! You did it, babe! That was what his Volhard test said, is that he responds well to praise. Not treats, praise. And I was like, good.
Silver Gattoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gattoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gattoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.